bring you greetings and welcome to the March 2nd, 2021 council meeting of the Gary Common Council. I want to begin by wishing everyone a very happy and blessed Women's History Month. And as I did last year at this time, I always want to recognize 3 women who serve on our Common Council. Councilwoman Mary Brown, Councilwoman Linda Barnes Caldwell, and Councilwoman and Vice President Ty Atkins. Certainly want to honor them, thank them for their service as our colleagues, and thank them for their leadership and all women who have fought for equality and equity of opportunity in this country and around the world. This time we will have our prayer by Councilman Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Shall we pray? Father God, we come right now giving you all praise, giving you all glory. Thanking you for a day that we have not seen before. Thanking you for how you watched over and you kept us on last night, oh God. And Lord, but you allowed us to wake up this morning with the activities of our limb and to be in our right mind, oh God. Lord, as we assemble today to do the work of the business of the people that have appointed us to sit in these seats, oh God, we count it a blessing, we count it a joy, oh God. Lord, we ask that you would give us wisdom, knowledge, oh God, and understanding right now to do the people's business. Lord, we ask that you would bless the Common Council. We ask that you would bless our mayor. We ask that you would bless the citizens of Gary. Right now, we give you praise and glory. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. At this time, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Here.
Councilman Brewer.
Here.
Councilwoman Brown.
I'm here. Present.
Councilman Brown.
Here.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Here.
Councilman Lay. Councilman Lay.
I'm present.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Present.
Councilman Williams. Councilman Williams.
You're muted, Councilman.
Councilman Williams.
Let's come back.
President Godwin.
Present.
Councilman Williams. Councilman Williams. Mr. President, there are 9 present, 0 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With 9 members present, we have a quorum to conduct the business of the Gary Common Council. Council members, before you are the minutes of our most previous Common Council meeting. Is there a motion to approve said minutes?
Mr. President, make a
Councilman
motion.
Brewer,
Thank you. Make a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Brewer and seconded by Councilwoman Atkins. Any questions or discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Brown.
Yeah, let's come back.
Councilman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Mm.
Can you hear now?
Councilman Williams. Councilman Williams. Councilwoman Brown.
Present. I'm here.
Councilman Williams.
Oh, hello.
We hear you. We're taking the vote now. You just muted yourself again, but we heard you when you unmuted yourself. So can you unmute yourself, Councilman Williams?
I don't think he can hear us. Councilman Williams, if you can hear us, can you just wave your hand at the screen to see if you can even hear us? I don't think he can even hear us. Something on his end, probably.
Okay.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
Tell him I can't.
We can hear you. We can hear you now. We hear you.
Got me? Okay.
Can you hear
Thanks.
us?
Thanks a lot.
Oh, can you hear us?
I can't hear you though.
You cannot hear me.
I can hear you through my phone. Let me hang up.
Okay.
Yes, Sherry?
You're live now. Okay, so
Oh,
okay, I think you're using your phone, so I don't think you can do both. Can you hear us now? So you have to log out and come back in. So let's just proceed, Madam Clerk, and then the media team can reach out, but make sure you make sure Councilman Williams is muted because he's currently unmuted. So
yeah, Michael.
please proceed, Madam Clerk.
Mr. President, the vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0, the minutes of our most previous council meeting are passed. Assignment of council pending ordinances and resolutions on first reading.
CPO 2021-03, an ordinance establishing 2021 appropriations for police department revenue budgets, Fund 227, for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2021, ending December 31st, 2021. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Colvin, Chief of Staff, City Controller.
Ways and Means.
CPO 2021-04, an ordinance appropriating funds for the Commission for Women from EFSP FEMA
Is it
for
not
the
coming
fiscal
through,
year.
or-
For the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2021, ending December 31st, 2021. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Coleman, Chief of Staff, City Controller.
Ways and Means.
CPO 2021-05, an ordinance granting a residency waiver for employment with the City of Gary, Indiana. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Personnel.
CPO 2021-06, an ordinance granting a residency waiver for employment with the City of Gary, Indiana, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Personnel.
CPO 2021-07, an ordinance granting a residency waiver for employment with the City of Gary, Indiana, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Personnel.
CPO 2021-08, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Laurel Pfefferman, 300 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana, property at 400 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2021-09, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Jose Hernandez Martinez, 4957 through 59 Broadway, Gary, Indiana, property at 4957 through 59 Broadway, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2021-10, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner is Kenesha Clark, 6938 Ironwood Avenue, Gary, Indiana, property at 6938 Ironwood Avenue, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2021-11, an ordinance approving an amendment to the 2021 budget, Fund 101 through 10, Mayor's Office, to change a position title, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Finance.
CPO 2021-12, an ordinance establishing Love Your Block Grant Fund 409 budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2021, and ending December 31st, 2021. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Coleman, City Controller.
Ways and Means.
CPR 2021-03, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Gary, Indiana, acknowledging Karen Freeman Wilson as the first African-American female mayor in the City of Gary and the state of Indiana for Black History Month, sponsored by members of the Gary Common Council, William G. Godwin, 1st District, Cozy Weatherspoon, 2nd District, Mary Brown, 3rd District, Ty Atkins, 4th District, Linda Barnes Caldwell, 5th District, Dwight Williams, 6th District, Ronald G. Brewer, Councilman at Large, Michael Brown, Councilman at Large, and Cloris Lake, Councilman at Large.
Not assigned at this time.
CPR 2021-04, a resolution of the Gary Common Council approving and accepting the transfer of a fire engine from the City of Valparaiso Fire Department, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Finance.
Mr. President, ends assignment of pending ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council. Okay, so the first two were Ways and Means, and the next two were Personnel. So your Personnel and Finance. I think I'm correct about that. Councilwoman Atkins?
That was the next three was all personnel, correct?
Yes, yeah, 05 through 07.
Okay.
Which one again, Mr. Chair?
05 through 07 were personnel. Okay, Councilwoman Atkins?
Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee has before it CPO 2021-03 on first reading. Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown, Mike Brown,
Yes. Yes. No problem.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Ways and Means Committee has accepted CPO 2021-03 for reporting out to the council. Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee has before it CPO 2021-04 before it for report out on first reading. Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. President, for the record, the majority of the Ways and Means Committee has accepted CPO 2020-2021-04 for reporting out to the council on first reading.
Mr. President, the Finance Committee, I'm sorry.
Mr. President, do you want to do all Ways and Means together?
Let's do that. Let's go ahead and continue with Ways and Means, and then we'll move to Personnel.
Okay, Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee also has before it CPO 2021-12 for report out on first reading. Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. President, for the record, the majority of the Ways and Means Committee has accepted CPO 2021-12 for reporting out on first reading.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Councilwoman Brown for Personnel.
The Finance Committee has before it CPO 2021-05.
So that's the Personnel.
Is that mine?
Yes, 05 through 07.
Okay, the Finance Committee has before it CPO 2021-05. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell
Yes.
and Councilman Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2021-05. For the record.
I think Councilwoman Atkins, go ahead.
So
What?
So first, it's assigned to Personnel Committee, not Finance.
No.
05, 06, and 07.
Are they finance or not?
They're personnel.
Personnel.
Okay,
But you are the chair of Personnel Committee too, Councilwoman.
okay. All right,
And on the Personnel Committee with you is myself and Councilman Brewer.
Oh, I got my sheet is not updated then. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Williams.
so CPO 5, 6, and 7 are all personnel, correct?
That's right.
okay.
Your committee, you want to just do it?
Yeah,
Okay,
I can.
all right.
Okay, so Councilwoman, I'm going to accept it for our committee. Mr. President, the Personnel Committee has before it the following ordinances: CPO 2021-05, CPO 2021-06, and CPO 2021-07 for the Personnel and Committee, and for us, wait, well, we can't do all three together. So it's Councilwoman Brown
Yeah.
and Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. President, for the record, the Personnel Committee has accepted the following CPOs on first reading: CPO 2021-05, 06, and 07 for report out to the council. Sorry, I fumbled that, but.
Okay. Councilman Brewer. Someone needs to mute yourself if you're not currently speaking. We're getting some background.
Mr. President, the Planning and Development Committee has before CPO 2021-08. I approve this to be reported out on first reading. Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, majority of the Planning Development Committee has approved CPO 2021-08. Mr. President, the Planning Development Committee has also before CPO 2021-09. I approve this to be reported out on first reading. Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, majority of the Planning Development Committee has approved CPO 2021-09. Mr. President, the Planning Development Committee has before it CPO 2021-10. I approve this to be reported out. Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Planning and Development Committee has approved CPO 2021-10 on first reading.
Councilwoman Brown.
Mr. President, Finance Committee has before it CPO 2021-11. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
You're muted.
I'm not.
Yes,
That was Councilwoman Caldwell that was
I
muted.
was. I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm not muted.
No, you wasn't you. It was Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell was muted.
Okay, okay. All right. All right, and then,
Councilwoman Atkins.
Godwin.
No, Atkins.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
So Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Mr. President, for the record, the Finance Committee approved CPO 2021-11. And then the Finance Committee has before it CPR 2021-04. For the record, I approve this resolution for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
That's you?
No, you're right, Councilwoman.
You know what?
Caldwell.
No, it's me and her.
Councilwoman Caldwell is on, and Councilwoman Atkins. She was just off. Councilwoman Caldwell, can you confirm your vote?
Yes.
We
Yes.
can barely hear you in here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
Okay.
yes,
All right, Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Okay. So we are reporting out CPR 2021-04.
yes.
Mr.
All
President.
right.
Okay, you guys have me all messed up, but okay.
You're muted on the, okay.
Mr. President, the Finance Committee has before it CPR 2021-04. For the record, I approve this resolution for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes,
okay, and Councilman Godwin.
It's it's Councilwoman Atkins. I'm not on the Finance Committee.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
thought you were.
That's right.
you too.
Okay. Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPR 2021-04 for reporting out to the council.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Atkins. Mhm.
Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee will report out CPO 2021-03, 2021-04, and 2021-12.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Councilwoman Brown,
Mr. President.
you're muted on the Zoom. All right.
Mr. President, the Finance Committee reports out CPR 2021-04. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council.
So that's Ways and Means. So the finance is 2021-11 and CPR 2021-04. Personnel is going to be 05, 06, and 07. So we got to go back with the finance would be 2021-11.
Still muted.
2021-11. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council.
You're muted.
What we doing?
We on?
Which one we on?
Councilwoman Burns Caldwell is going to do it. We're on CPO 2021-11 and then CPR 2021-04.
All right.
President.
Mr.
Finance.
President, Finance would like to report out CPO 2021-11 and CPR 2021-04.
Thank you, Councilwoman Burns Caldwell. Councilwoman Atkins.
Mr. President, for the record, the Personnel Committee will report out CPO 2021-05, 2021-06, and 2021-07.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Councilman Brewer.
Mr. President, Planning and Development has before us CPO 2021-08, 2021-09, and CPO 2021-10.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. This time we will have our special and select. Any council members who would like to speak for special and select?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
the 5th District will have our second community meeting Thursday, March the 4th at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom. Our special guest will be Congressman Frank Marvan. All are welcome to attend. Our meeting ID is 899-7651-9730, passcode 500449. Or you can always call in at 312-626-6799. And if you didn't get that, you can always call the council office, push 1, and you will get the legislative assistant, and they'll be able to help you. I look forward to seeing you via Zoom. That's Thursday, March the 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Thank you. I have a couple of things to go over, so bear with me. First, I wanted to extend some condolences on behalf of myself. We had a longtime resident, Miss Sally Malone, who passed away on February the 20th. She was funeralized this past Saturday. Miss Sally was an amazing old person with wise years, and she passed away at 92 years young. Longtime resident of the 4th District, so I do want to extend my condolences to her family, the Malone family. Also, to my dear friend Brian Bonds, I would like to give condolences to him on the passing of his father, Pastor Dr. Lorenzo Bonds, who was the pastor at Temple of Deliverance in Christchurch. He also was funeralized this past Saturday. Extended condolences to the family of Anthony, also known as Ray Green. I believe Tony he's also known as Tony, was an Emerson class of 81 graduate, but he also was very active in the political scene in Maryville, more recently as a Maryville Precinct Committee person. So I do want to extend my sincere condolences to the family of Ray Green. And lastly, within the condolences part of this section, Captain Emmett Lewis, one of GFD's finest, recently passed away. Some of you all might know of his historic basketball history, as he was a standout player for Emerson, I believe a graduate of 1971, went on and played for the University of Colorado, went and played in the NBA for a little while, and then came back home to serve his city as a member of the Gary Finest Fire Department. So definitely want to extend my sincere condolences to the fire department as well as the family of Captain Lewis. The 4th District first community meeting of the year will also be taking place on Thursday, March the 4th at 5:30. Our meeting will be in person. That meeting will be held at the Railcut Stadium located inside of the Diamond Center event space. We will be practicing social distancing as always, and please come with your masks. Just a quick overview in terms of the agenda items that we will review. I'll be reporting out on what is happening in our district. I do have an update to give residents on the following: the demolition plan for the 4th District that we have thus far, the paving plan, I did receive that from Public Works. We do have information related to those particular programs that have been confirmed as active for 2021 for the city. So I do want to give a review in terms of the community resources that our residents have available. Also, we'll give a brief review on what's been happening in the chambers. I know most of you all do tune in into the public meetings, but I can kind of give you an overview in terms of how we finished out last year and what the goal is from a legislative standpoint this year moving forward. I've also invited members of the mayor's team to engage with us so that they can hear the feedback of our residents and our concerns, and we'll be looking forward for them to interact and implement that feedback into the plan for the 4th District moving forward. The MBE workshop that I announced in our last council meeting will be pushed back to April. I will give the confirmed date during our next council meeting, which will be the March the 16th date. The reason for the pushback is I got some good information from a nonprofit in Indianapolis where I believe that we can have a more comprehensive approach to include and make sure that our MBE businesses that are eligible can fully go through the process appropriately and then have more hands-on approach to walk you through that process. And so I will give an update at the March 16th meeting related to that. In Gary, it is March Madness. And so Gary is an athletic town with traditions in basketball. So as you all know, the NCAA tournament as well as the Big Ten tournament is happening in the state of Indiana and Indianapolis. But right here in our own backyard, we have a lot of shout outs to give as it relates to basketball accolades, if you will. So first off, I do want to give a 4th District salute and a special shout out to 3 of our Gary own lady basketball players, Courtney Blakely, who's currently a senior at Bishop Noah Institute, Courtney is currently ranked 10th in the nation in scoring for all high school basketball players. Courtney is also currently nominated as a Miss Indiana Miss Basketball candidate, and more recently, she did receive a McDonald's All-American nominee. So we are looking forward to Courtney going on and being very successful, and also hopefully getting appointed as a member of the McDonald's All-American team. Oh, today she also was appointed to the Indiana's All-Star team as well. 15 players across the state of Indiana was selected, and Courtney was one of those. Courtney is the daughter of Lew Wallace High School standout player Angela Hamlin-Bakley, who's also currently the women's coach at Calumet College, and also the daughter of Bishop Blakely, who are over Christ the King Ministries located in the Glen Park area. Trinity Thompson, who is a former West Side player, but she did leave 2 years ago to finish her high school career at Michigan City High School, was also nominated as a McDonald's All-American. Trinity, is crazy seeing these two girls as seniors. I remember when they were born. Trinity is the daughter of Tarnisha Thomas, who was a standout player at Westside High School, and the daughter of Pastor Royce Thomas, both of New Friendship Missionary Baptist Church. So we definitely want to encourage them well, and hopefully they could actually make the McDonald's All-American team. These are great triumphs. As a young basketball player myself, I remember having those particular dreams. So it's amazing to have two young ladies right here from our hometown who was able to achieve that. Dana Evans, if you all might know her, she was a 2017 graduate of Westside. Dana is currently a senior at the University of Louisville and was recently named the ACC Player of the Year for the second consecutive year in a row. So we're definitely looking for Dana to go in the top pick for the WNBA draft that is coming up. So just shout outs to those three young ladies. Your city is proud of you, and I'm definitely proud of you, three of you. Speaking of that, the young ballers, the AAU basketball team, Cycle Breaker Basketball, has started up their spring workouts. The targeted age group is 3rd grade to 8th grade. And again, this is for the young ladies. The next workout session that they will have is Monday, March the 8th at 6 p.m. And those workouts are at Westside High School. They take place weekly, Monday, Tuesday, Friday at 6 p.m. And so if you need more information, contact Coach Butler. The number is 219-427-2101. And again, that's for our AU basketball team, for our young ladies that's in the 3rd through the 8th grade. Boys basketball sectionals are back at Gary Westside. And so Westside is the host site for the Class 4A sectionals. Tomorrow, our Cougars will take on the Maryville Pirates at 5:30. We are encouraging advance tickets to be purchased. There will be a limited amount of tickets available at the door. And as you know, our Cougars are definitely ranked top 5 within the state. So we are wishing them well. The Indiana Plan Construction Awareness Program will be starting up again. They will have a new orientation date. The orientation will be in April, but I'm giving you all a heads up. It will be April the 19th through the 23rd. And again, the mission of the Indiana Plan is to address and correct the problem of low minority participation in union building trades. And so we always talk about getting our people involved in the trade, and the Indiana Plan is a great way to do that. It is a pre-apprenticeship program which provide participants with basic understandings of principles that are required in any building trade. So again, that particular next orientation class is April the 19th, with the full training session starting up in May. For more information, you can contact the executive director of the Indiana Plan. His name is Roman Ronson. His number is 219-884-4503. And lastly, President Godwin started off our meeting by acknowledging Women's Month, Women's History Month, but it is also March, and March is the National Colon Cancer Awareness Month. And so being a predominantly African-American based demographic here, I do want to give you guys a couple of facts related to that. African-Americans have 20% higher chance of being diagnosed with colon cancer. Colon cancer is the 3rd most common cancer among African-American men and women. There are some biological, cultural, and social economic factors that contribute to that. However, with proactive colon cancer screening, there is a 90% preventable chance with that if you do your active screenings. Colon cancer is very prominent in my family. It's no secret that my mom passed away from that. I have an aunt, my grandfather, and a host of cousins. And so my family, like some African-American families, have Lynch syndrome, So I'm encouraging our African Americans as well as our minorities, our Hispanic members of the community as well, who also show disproportion in terms of being aware. This particular cancer is one of the few that has the high rate of being preventable. So in this month of March, please utilize this opportunity to become familiar with that and talk over those screening capabilities with your doctor. I'll be giving some more information related to this in March because in our community meeting on Thursday, because it is something that is near and dear to my heart. So again, our community meeting is on Thursday at 5:30, and I look forward to sharing some more information related to this and more with our residents. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Other members for special and select?
Mr. Chair,
Councilman Williams?
thank you. I'd like to announce the 6th District Community Community Forum, which will be coming up Thursday, March 18th, 6 o'clock via Zoom. We will have Chief Brian Evans from Mary Police Department, Rachel Morgan, Caesar, which from General Services, hopefully AJ Bittnar with Director of Redevelopment, Carol Pirtle, which is our Deputy Director of Redevelopment, Cedric Kirkendall, which is Demolition Coordinator, and Brandon Hinkle, which is our Code Enforcement Officer for the 6th District. This will be a special mailing. There's a postcard coming to you with a QR code. So those of you who have a cell phone, or you can just hold that code up to the back of your camera, let your camera lens focus on it, it'll take you directly to the meeting. Hoping that that'll help with increasing attendance. Also, we will be discussing the demolition plan there for the Gary Lou Wallace High School. Dates and plans for that land site. Please call Sherry Smith, 219-777-5589. Again, 219-777-59. March 18th at 6 o'clock is the date for the Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Williams. Other members for special and select? Well, I will just, Councilman Brewer.
Thank you. Also want to, along with my Councilwoman Ty Atkins, send them out my condolences to Mr. Emmett Lewis, yes, retired firefighter, and also to Pastor Bonds and the passing of the pastor of Temple Deliverance. Mr. President, I know there was a question that was asked yesterday in the executive session there about some information far as the banking, and I have not received that information, and it was stated in that meeting if we did not receive it there, we were requesting in this meeting here. So I'm requesting that information now at this time from the administration.
I think Councilman Brewer is referring to the the issuer of a commitment to the entity that is to buy or has bought or has signed a contract to purchase the Genesis Center in Ivanhoe. So I'll turn to Attorney McCain.
Councilman Brewer, you should have received an email from Corporation Counsel. I have to look at the email to see the exact hour, but it was this afternoon.
Okay.
If you could take a look at that and let me know if that satisfies your question.
Well, if you say you send it, I'll look for it and I won't hold up the meeting. I do appreciate it, but I'll look for it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, Councilman
Mr.
Brewer.
President.
Oh, Councilman Brown.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity. Hey, I have a legal question I would ask our attorney. The purchase of the Genesis Center in Ivanhoe, from a state board standpoint, are we connected to that in any way? Because I'm concerned from a legal standpoint where we are, because when the State Board of Accounts comes in and do what they do, I want to make sure that it's clear the Genesis Center, the purchase of the vehicles, as well as the Ivanhoe project and some of the other things that, you know, we didn't have any input or anything, had nothing to do with the purchases, nothing to do with the negotiations. And I'm just concerned. So I'm asking our attorney, Williams, could he give me some direction?
Yes, sir, Councilman Brown. As the council, you will be provided if there are any audit findings, they'll be provided to you. As far as the council being personally liable, that won't be the case. The body or individual who took the action will be named, and not the council particularly. But you will be provided a copy, and I'm sure at the exit, you may be even provided with the exit interview, but there's no personal liability on the council.
Okay, thank you. So there's nothing publicly the council needs to say from a legal standpoint about these purchases, because people keep asking the council people about these purchases like we are directly involved in it. So it's a concern.
No, I understand. But no, I think what you just stated will probably suffice. But there's no action that's required other than educating the public on the correct entity that's in charge of making those decisions, and that being the executive branch.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brown. And I share your concerns. And of course, it's public knowledge that we did have executive sessions on this. And I think it's important for the public to know. And I did state that then because they don't see it as redevelopment, park board, it's city. And they see us as the decision-making body when it comes to fiscal matters, buying and selling things and approving it. And I know I have gone on record to publicly express my concerns, not only with the vehicle purchases, but also the sale of both the Genesis Center and Ivanhoe. And there are some pending, still very important questions as it relates to that. And I want the public to know in the spirit of, and I'm very glad that you brought that up, Councilman Brown, in the spirit of them knowing that we are doing our due diligence. And, you know, our job is to ask questions and to look into these matters and to make sure that the best interest of the city is always front and center. And I have a lot of concerns, but I think we're going to continue to be vigilant on this. We had a very healthy executive session yesterday. I anticipate there might be a brief one in the future to follow up on some of the lingering questions and concerns around those. And I will just say, I've been participating in this Indiana Economic Development Association training on redevelopment commissions. There's a lot of power there. There's a lot of power there. And it is concerning because while I understand the executive branch needs to be able to operate and function and have flexibility, as you state, Councilman Brown, people look at all of us as being a part of some of these things. And I am absolutely not a part of any of those things in terms of my agreement with them and how things were done. So I think it's very important, as you state, for the public to know that. I did want to add a few other things. The Indiana Gaming Commission issued 2 orders today. The first order waives the application for transfer of ownership and approves proposed transfer of ownership interest in the casino owner's license. The second order approves the settlement agreement and release between the commission and Roderick Ratcliffe, a substantial indirect owner of Spectacle. Senate Assistant Democratic Leader Eddie Melton released the following statement. I'm happy that the Indiana Gaming Commission issued today's orders that would allow the new Hard Rock Casino to open in a timely manner. Obviously, it's very important to all of us that Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana be able to open as close as possible on schedule, because we know that is a big part of our budget and a big part of economic development and jobs for the city of Gary and the whole region. So I'm delighted to hear that that did happen today in Indianapolis. Also, Councilwoman Atkins mentioned about the sectionals. I'm hoping to go to one of those games this week. And there's also a fundraiser for football uniforms. I will be donating, and I encourage all citizens to donate. You can go to the Westside Leadership Academy Athletics page to donate to support our students in getting uniforms. It's very important that we support our students and that we have, athletics is very often the savior for a lot of kids to keep them engaged in school. Also, the first district will have our second community meeting via Zoom on Wednesday, March 17th at 6:30 p.m. We will have as our special guest, Dr. Paige McNulty, the Chief of the Gary Community School Corporation, who will be informing us on the academic as well as the social and economic performance of the school corporation. We will also have Ms. Millie Glenn, our Executive Director of Code Enforcement, as well as Mr. Princeton, who is our Code Enforcement Officer for the First District. We know as the snow begins to melt, everyone will be paying closer attention to a lot of these code violations that we want to eliminate as much as possible to improve the look and the feel of our city. If you would like to participate in that meeting, the meeting ID is 836-4882-2170. The password is 384000. You can also call the council office at 219-881-1315. Also wanted to note earlier that we did not assign CPR 2021-03, which is the resolution honoring former Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, not because we're not doing that, but I wanted to make some adjustments to that resolution because I didn't think that it really captured all of the many contributions that she made during her tenure. And so it is my intent that at our next council meeting, and certainly before then, it will be circulated among members, that will be brought before all of us. It's Women's History Month, so it's a nice tie-in, and that it's honoring her as the first African-American woman mayor in the state of Indiana. So just want to make sure that that is as best as it can be before we vote on it. Also, we sent letters out to about 700 households in the first district. If you did not get one of those letters, that means you are not on my list, and I want you to be on my list. Please call the council office at 219-881-1315 and give us your address, and I will make sure that you receive one of the many mailings that will go out to the first district residents this year. Lastly, I want to just recognize a personal hero of mine who I was honored to meet twice, Mr. Vernon Jordan, who died last night. And while he was not a Gary resident, he was certainly a resident of the world, a citizen of the world who made major contribution in the arena of civil rights, but also what we call silver rights in terms of advancing economic opportunity, diversifying corporate America, as well as on the political landscape, whether it was his work with the Voter Education Project, his work as the head of the National Urban League, his work as a lawyer, businessman, confidant to many presidents. He has always been a fighter for social justice, and it's so important that we continue to honor those who have given their life's work to the advancement of all people, but especially African-American people. So I wanted to salute Mr. Vernon Julian Jordan today for his life and legacy. Thank you. Other members for special and select.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay.
I'll yield to Mr. Williams. Let him
Councilman
go.
Williams.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll be very short. I just wanted to make a quick amendment to my announcement for the 6th District Zoom meeting. That meeting is particularly for the residents of precinct G610. But if you would like to attend, that's who the mailing we're going to with the special postcards with QR codes on it. If you're interested in attending the meeting, I can send you some information. Not solely for the residents in G610, but if you have a concern, please give me a call or give Gary Smith a call, and I'll make sure you get to him.
Thank you, Councilman Williams. Councilman Lay.
Two things, Mr. President, is based upon your comments. When will the casinos open for operation? You didn't tell us that. You didn't give us
The last word I got, which is not an official word, but it is a representative for the casino, is that it would approximately be May of 2021. Now, if someone from the administration has a different understanding, I know that we have been invited as a council to get an early look in mid-March. And so the goal is that by May, they will be complete and open to the public.
Dr. McNulty, at our first meeting following the passing of the referendum, indicated she would be coming on the council meetings. I have yet to see her again. That's what I hope she would at least carry out what she had promised to do. So is it her intent not to come back before the council where she received such a favorable response?
She will be. I met with her last week, and she's going to come on a quarterly basis, which is what my understanding was initially. So I expect for her to be here at our next council meeting, which will be on the 16th, March 16th, to present on the status of the school corporation.
I would appreciate you have a much better relationship than I have with her. I'd like to know children attendance. In other words, my interest is more directed toward the children. How many are attending? How she's feeding that group of students? Should they go back to school, will the arrangement be less than 20, 25, 27 students per teacher? But I certainly would like to know what's going on with how well are they recording attendance?
Absolutely. I will definitely relay that to her. I did participate in the DUAB meeting, which was on, I think, Thursday or Friday of last week. And she reported there to them that it was 45% who are in-person attendance. They have gone back to in-school, but there's 45% who are currently attending. It's mandatory for the seniors, I believe. But I will ensure that she gives us the latest information of how that is working out, as well as the other questions.
Right, I would hope so. And I mean, in detail, if possible, as opposed to coming back and sort of wasting time. I don't know where she had just been. I'd like to know how well they're being fed, because the figures previously were just absolutely inaccurate. Even a statement she made was inaccurate for someone to be in charge of a school district. All righty, well, thank you, Mr. President.
Right, thank you, Councilman Lay. Other members for special and select?
President,
Councilman Brewer?
just real quick, just want to let the public know that we did have a snow plan meeting just over a week ago where we discussed the last snowstorm, and we discussed equipment also. We will reconvene within the next 30, well, it's a little less than that now, but at the end of this month, we will reconvene to have an additional meeting to talk about next year, being prepared for next year, and also being prepared for this summer and annual cleanups throughout the city. So I will give you a formal date for the next meeting. It's a public meeting we will have to discuss our plans on making sure we have the proper equipment to make sure we do a proper job. So I'll make sure I announce it at the next meeting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Any other questions for special and select? Okay. This time we will have council pending ordinances and resolutions on third and or final reading.
CPO 2020-80, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Gary, providing for a hearing and public comment on the transfer sale of certain properties formerly owned by the GUEA, sponsored by AJ Bender, Redevelopment Department.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer?
make a motion to move CPO 2020-08 back to committee on the 23rd. I know that's a little ways out, but it's agreement between the committee and also staff that we will give them time to do what they need to do. Bring it back to us on the 23rd at 5:30 p.m. We'll make it 5 o'clock p.m. Sorry, 5 o'clock p.m.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown. Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2020-80 is moved to the Planning and Development Committee with a Zoom meeting to be held on March 23rd, 2021 at 5:30 p.m.
Mr. President, is pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Atkins.
I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and add CPO 2021-13 to be considered on all three readings.
Second.
That would be, that's right, it's not on our agenda, so we need to.
Add it to the agenda first
Add
and
it to, so
then,
the motion is to add.
yeah, I'll restate the motion.
Okay,
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to add CPO to suspend the rules, right? And then add CPO 2021-13 to today's agenda.
Second.
been moved and properly seconded by Councilman Brown and Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? I will state that it was circulated to all of us earlier today. If you did not receive it, it is via email, and of course, there will be an overview.
Which one are we adding?
This is CPO 2021-13.
Mr. President, what is it? I mean, even before we vote, we should be talking what it is.
So what was, I agree, Councilman Lay, what was circulated was to add a dollar amount to the salary for the Director of Community Development. And basically in recognition of the fact that the person who will be holding that role will also be providing supportive services to the Chief of Staff, which is now Attorney McCain, as well as to the Controller who will be hired.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I know what it is now. Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none.
Go ahead. I'll allow for it to go ahead and be added.
Okay. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-13 is added to our agenda. Councilwoman Atkins.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and consider CPO 2021-13 on all three readings.
It has to go before first reading get read out.
So at this time, thank you, parliamentarian. Madam Clerk will now read CPO 2021-13, my error.
Explain the procedure so I can make sure, so we can have it for future reference.
So first, the clerk has to read it on first reading, and then we can take a vote.
You're muted.
First, the clerk will have to read it out on first reading.
Okay.
And then after that, we can take action on it. Yes.
Okay.
So right now, we just suspend the rules to add it to the agenda, but now we have to let the clerk read it out before first reading. And
at what point will we be able to get the overview?
Right after this.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You can move.
CPO 2021-13, an ordinance amending ordinance number 9354, providing a salary increase in Fund 261 through 501, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Ways and Means. Councilwoman Atkins. No, now you gotta have a committee vote. Committee vote. Right.
Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee has before it CPO 2021-13, Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Yes.
For the record, the majority of the Ways and Means Committee has accepted CPO 2021-13 on first reading.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Now
you
I can-
report out now. So
Oh,
you're reporting out CPO 2021-13.
okay.
All right. So
Mr. President, for the record, the Ways and Means Committee will report out CPO 2021-13 on first reading.
thank you. Councilwoman Atkins. No, now you're going to suspend the rules. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Mr. President, I'd like to make the motion to suspend the rules and consider CPO 2021-13 on all three readings.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Council Members Barnes Caldwell and Councilman Brown. Any questions or discussion? Call that this requires a unanimous vote of the council. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams, Councilman Williams,
You're muted.
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With the vote of 9-0, we've suspended the rules to consider CPO 2021-13 on all three readings. Now I'll turn to Councilwoman Atkins.
Okay.
So we'll have the overview at this time.
Do you want me to get over here?
No, Attorney McCain will give the overview. All right.
Mr. President, I'm prepared to give the overview on behalf of the administration. CPO 2021-13 is an ordinance amending ordinance number 9354, providing a salary increase in fund number 261-501. We're asking the council to approve a salary increase in that fund and department, providing additional funding from or to fund number 261-501 as a subsidy from the city's general fund. The purpose of the salary increase, as you stated earlier, is to supplement the salary of the community development director, who will be providing supportive services for the chief of staff, as well as the city controller when that person is hired.
Thank you, Attorney McCain. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay?
his overview was deficient in two areas. One, you should say the amount so the public will know, and also the name of the person.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. I do have Ms. Colvin on the line, and she can give the exact amount. I do not know it, as well as the name of the person is Arlene Colvin.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The amount of the supplement is $18,000. And this will provide the additional funding to bring my salary to what it is right now.
And you've given yourself the raise since you're the one that's giving the overview, but stating your salary and what you,
Well,
what you're
the
gonna.
deputy mayor gave.
I apologize. I'm
I
sorry.
really thought, he ought to do that.
Yeah, I apologize. Sorry, Mr. President. I shouldn't have wasted the council's time.
No, that's no problem. And I will just say
And
this.
I will be voting for it, so.
Thank you, Council.
Clear that up.
Yeah, I will just say this, that Attorney Colvin has been working with the city for many years. And she, in this past year, did a yeoman's job of juggling, being the interim controller, as well as the chief of staff, and probably some other things too. And that is to be commended. I want to thank the mayor for acknowledging our process. We had a very healthy meeting yesterday, where he laid out for us what his vision was and is for this move, and that she will help the new controller, who will most certainly need it, given our fiscal challenges, and will also help Attorney McCain, given her expertise with the various departments and how they function within the city. I appreciate the process. And because the process was properly done and the order of events was proper, I will be voting in favor of this change.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion?
Just very briefly, I have talked to, and I'm going to call her Arlene because we are friends, literally for years. Most of the time we do agree. And certainly I think she's done a yeoman job. And again, I'm not talking in terms of Mr. Trent, but the first thing I did when I found out she was appointed as chief of staff, that was probably one of my first communications with the mayor, and that he had made what I considered an outstanding appointment. I think Councilwoman Brown and I both discussed that. We thought that was a good appointment. I don't think we called him about anyone else, but we certainly dealt with her. And we, of course, we're not talking about Mr. McCain. We didn't think of him at the time. But certainly, I think it's something the council, in this case, should vote for. Matter of fact, Arlene is a Martin Luther King marcher. So many years back, I can't remember. She had a lot of time. She is approaching, and I'm not going to say because most of you think she's 39, but she may.
And that's how old I am, 39.
She may be approaching that as years of service too. But anyway, she is a friend, and certainly she's not going away. She just, I guess, moving. I'm not even sure where redevelopment is now. Community development. I'm sorry, I'm not sure where they're housed. I know they closed.
City Hall.
Where are you housed at?
Oh, it's still in City Hall on the 3rd floor.
Oh, it was at 839, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All righty. Well, again, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. I just want to make sure she didn't want to get out of coming to our council meetings.
I'll still be coming.
All right, thank you. Any other members, question or discussion?
Mr. President?
Councilman Brewer?
Yes, thank you. I do understand what's taking place here tonight, but I would not be voting for it. It's no hit against Ms. Colvin. I think she does an excellent job. She has done tremendous amount of service inside the city. My problem is, we pick and choose when we can find dollars inside the city. And now we think we're going to pull from the general fund and supplement the salary. There's no hit against Ms. Colvin because she has always done a great job as being an employee of this city here. But I can't vote for it because of the way that we're pulling these funds at this time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
No.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Muted.
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 8 yes, 1 no.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With 8 votes in the affirmative, CPO 2021-13 passes and is so ordered. Congratulations, Attorney Cole. Council pending ordinances and resolutions on second reading.
CPO 2021-03, an ordinance establishing 2021 appropriations for the Police Department revenue budget, Fund 227 for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2021, ending December 31st, 2021. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Colvin, Chief of Staff, City Controller.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee report on CPO 2021-03 on second reading with a committee meeting scheduled for Tuesday, March the 9th at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom, and a public hearing scheduled for March the 16th at 6 p.m. via Zoom.
If there is no objection, can we combine these for the second reading vote, unless someone has a particular desire not to vote for one? Is there any objection to combining the Ways and Means for second reading? Okay. Can please proceed, Councilwoman Atkins.
Okay. Also on second reading, the Ways and Means reports out CPO 2021-04, as well as CPO 2021-12. Again, for a Ways and Means Committee meeting scheduled for March the 9th at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom, and a public meeting scheduled for March the 16th at 6 p.m. via Zoom.
Can I just have, it was my error, she was giving me that look. Deputy Clerk Reynolds, could you go ahead and read CPO 21-4 as well as CPO 21-12?
12.
CPO 2021-4, an ordinance appropriating funds for the Commission for Women from EFSP FEMA for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2021, ending December 31st, 2021. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Colvin, Chief of Staff, City Controller. CPO 2021-12, an ordinance establishing Love Your Block Grant 409 budget for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2021, ending December 31st, 2021. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary, Arlene Colvin, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Atkins. You can just do 4, you don't do all of them, just 4 and 12.
Okay.
She already read 3.
Okay, Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee will hold on second reading CPO 2021-04, CPO 2021-12, a committee meeting scheduled for March the 9th at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom, and a public hearing to be held on March the 16th at 6 p.m. via Zoom.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any question or discussion?
What was the time for that meeting?
5:30 p.m.
You said, I'm sorry?
5:30 p.m. Okay. Any other questions? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown, Councilman Brown,
He's muted.
You muted, Councilman.
You.
Yes. Thank you.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-03, 04, and 12 pass on second reading with a committee meeting, a Ways and Means Committee meeting to be held on March 9th, 2021 at 5:30 PM via Zoom.
CPO 2021-05, an ordinance granting a residency waiver for employment with the city of Gary, Indiana, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, city of Gary. Would you like for me to continue with them?
Yes.
CPO 2021-06, an ordinance granting a residency waiver for employment with the city of Gary, Indiana, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, city of Gary, and 2021-07, an ordinance granting a residency waiver for employment with the city of Gary, Indiana, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, city of Gary.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Mr. President, I move for passage on second reading the following ordinances: CPO 2021-05, CPO 2021-06, and CPO 2021-07 on second reading for a personnel committee meeting scheduled for March the 9th at 6 PM or 6:30.
Do 6:15 or 6 o'clock is fine.
Okay, 6 PM, and a public hearing that will be scheduled for March the 16th via Zoom at 6 PM.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-05, 06, and 07 passed on second reading with a personnel committee meeting to be held on March 9th at 6 o'clock PM via Zoom, and a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, March 16th, 2021, also via Zoom. Councilman Brewer. I'm sorry, Deputy Clerk Reynolds.
CPO 2021-08, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petition Laurel Pfefferman, 300 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana. Property at 401 West Ridge Road, Gary, Indiana. CPO 2021-09, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Jose Hernandez Martinez, 4957 through 59 Broadway, Gary, Indiana. Property at 4957 through 59 Broadway, Gary, Indiana. CPO 2021-10, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Kenesha Clark, 6938 Ironwood Avenue, Gary, Indiana. Property at 6938 Ironwood, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer.
I move for passage on second reading CPO 2021-08, CPO 2021-09, 2021-10 for Tuesday, March the 9th at, let's go 7 PM.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Brewer, seconded by Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-08, 09, and 10 passed on second reading with a Planning and Development Committee meeting to be held on March 9th at 7 o'clock PM via Zoom, and a public hearing on March 16th, 2021 at 6 o'clock PM also via Zoom.
CPO 2021-11, an ordinance approving an amendment to the 2021 budget, Fund 101 Mayor's Office to change a position title, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Mr. President.
CPR 2021-04, a resolution of Gary Common Council approving and accepting the transfer of a fire engine from the City of Valparaiso Fire Department, sponsored by Mayor Jerome Prince, City of Gary.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2021-11 and CPR 2021-04 on second reading, Tuesday, March 9th at 4, wait a minute, we've got 5:30, 4:30? At March 9th at 4:30
Second.
via Zoom.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Brown and seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. President, I just had one on 2021-4. Is this a new fire engine? I mean, in other words, I'm not sure why we wouldn't be just doing this. Someone tell us what it is. We possibly do this on all 3 readings if it's a gift to the city.
Mr. Councilman Lay, it is a gift to the city from the Valparaiso Fire Department.
No, that part understood. Is it new, used?
It's used, yes.
It's used. Okay, then we can, I guess, send it to committee so we can get more information.
I think that will be good.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or discussion about either of these? Okay, seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-11 and CPR 2021-04 pass on second reading with a Finance Committee meeting to be held on March 9th at 4:30 p.m. via Zoom and a public hearing on March 16th at 6:00 p.m. via Zoom.
Mr. President, in pending ordinances and resolutions on second reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilman Lay.
Yes, on this 2021-04, I'd like to at least have the fire chief, someone who has a somewhat a better background than the mayor in terms of fire equipment. And to come on, so at least to the committee meeting, so we can, because we sort of suggested in the past, at least I did, that the mayor is the sponsor, he then must explain it. So I would hope that if he comes on, he brings the fire chief or some member of the fire department. I assume his chief would be the one he would probably prefer to bring, so we can have much greater detail and we can ask more detailed questions. He may not have a sufficient background in this area.
The fire chief on?
I agree, and I don't believe he's on. I don't know whether he is or not, but let's just bring that to committee. So we don't have Councilman Brown.
I think.
Okay.
So my question also is, has anyone actually seen this fire truck? I understand it's a 1995 unit, and what would it cost us to put it in service, and what would it cost us to maintain it before we just take it?
Councilman Brown, I did have a conversation just yesterday with the fire chief about this, and he is in very good shape. The pumper that we don't currently have a pumper inside the city, and it's in very excellent shape compared to what we have.
But can we get him on? In other words, we have not had the advantage, and that's what Councilman Brown said is what my concern was. In other words, I want someone to tell us in much greater details about this truck, because he's right. If it costs us $100,000 or $200,000 to put it in operation, then we have a problem. So if Mr. President, can you ask that the fire chief or someone certainly with experience in this area come to the committee meeting so we can ask those questions.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that would be
Mr.
good.
President,
Councilman Brown?
so we've had some real concerns about equipment lately, whether it's police, fire, snow removals. And so I have to ask these questions because, again, the public is constantly asking the council, the concerns and telling us the concerns they have about how things are done. And we might have one or two people that's making decisions. And in the process, the entire city is being affected by it. So I'm very leery about approving anything until we get something that really is concrete moving forward from an economical standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Brown. Councilman Brewer?
And I would just say, I don't know if everyone has seen the ordinance, but inside the section 1 here, I guess it's gotta be because it talks about the transfer, if it's so bad, about the proceeds going back to them also. I just want everyone to take a look at that also, but I do think it needs to probably go to committee for the fire chief and if not the mayor or representative be there to talk about it more in detail. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, that ends our second reading. This time we will have reports and questions of city officials. So I guess we'll have the mayor's report.
Excuse me. I'm
Councilman
sorry, Mr.
Brown?
President. I do apologize again. I had one other question. I believe we had a meeting about some lettering and there was some corrections was supposed to be made. Is there an update on that?
So at the Public Safety Committee meeting, I asked Mr. Reeves, who ordered the vehicles, to have that lettering removed. I am in the process of working on a resolution, which I hope I don't have to file, but I will, if I am not given a deadline for when those letters are removed. I think both of us agree, and I'm sure there are others on the council, that it is inappropriate. I'm not looking to create a spectacle, so if it's removed, then there will be no need. And it's not just police vehicles, but also I understand it is on some of the vehicles that General Services has. So that is just not what we do here. And so I will publicly again ask the administration to remove it. I see that Attorney McCain, Chief of Staff, is on. So I will ask them to provide us in writing whether they will do it and a timeline for doing it. And if not, I have asked Attorney Williams, who is on, to draft a resolution to that effect, and it will be filed at the next council meeting. Also, I have asked Councilman Brewer, who's the chair of the Public Safety Committee, to hold a follow-up meeting. We will make sure we do that in the evening, follow-up committee meeting to talk about these vehicles more generally. We did receive information from Attorney Colvin about the cost of the 2017 vehicles. Also, since that meeting, I was informed that the state QPA director, not director, but the state QPA auto provider out of Bloomington was not contacted by the city of Garrett, and that the QPA had not closed, but it was still open, and whether it was closed or open is really irrelevant because it just simply means you use the last figure that the state provided. And I understand that was roughly 31,500 for 2020, and I think it was 27,500 in 2017. We know that these vehicles were costing in the mid-50 range. And there were questions about whether and to what extent that was done appropriately. I will ask for Mr. Reeves, as well as the appropriate commanders from the police department, as well as vehicle maintenance, to participate in that next committee meeting, because I want all parties who are relevant to be present. And I want an honest conversation. I'm not going to go into it now, but there have been times where I felt like the truth was not being told. And that's just not acceptable. And so I'm not looking to have an inquisition or anything like that, but I want a mutually respectful conversation around this issue. I think we can all agree that we spent too much on those vehicles, but that can never happen again. And we must also get truthful information about the process that was used. So I'm going to turn to Councilman Brewer if you want to announce that a time, and we need to do it soon, for having this meeting. Hopefully we can do it next week. Councilman Brewer?
Yes, Mr. President, I will call for a public safety meeting to be held next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Urging all council members to be there via Zoom or in person inside the chambers, and also all participating parties that we will actually send out a formal request that you be there also, either on Zoom or inside the chambers also, social distance. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer, and thank you, Councilman Brown, for keeping that on our agenda, because we've certainly been getting the calls internally and externally, and we have to stay on top of these things. And so I'm looking forward to an honest and open conversation about what happened and then what's the path forward so that it never happens again.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay?
I pretty much know what the problem is. I guess I'll wait and say, I think it's the source of the buyer is really our problem. In other words, everyone is going to appear, and I have no problem with that, but I do not believe they participated in making the decision. Same way with the lettering on the truck. I mean, when we get into this honest conversation, that decision was solely made by an individual. And I'm pretty sure the city is going to remove those letters. I certainly went back and inquired. So hopefully we will get that information tonight or very soon hereafter, that we don't have to do anything about the lettering. But I think it's your source of purchasing. It ties back to some of the information we received in that executive session. Again, it's the source of the information, and it certainly was incorrect. I mean, it made no sense when it was being said. I knew it made no sense then, but it certainly makes no sense now. And that's going to have to be corrected. Either they're going to have to let multiple people now participate in the process, or I think the executive branch will find itself with a very sincere problem that may not be correctable. And I think you, as well as other members of the council, pointed it out in that executive session. And I think there were key questions asked, and the answers fell way short of being satisfactory in my world. In some cases, I'd prefer the person not to say anything, just, sit silent and let us speculate. But it's the source. It's how everything is being done. I think that's something the executive branch is going to have to straighten up, and it's going to fall on the executive branch. I don't think it's going to fall on this council. It may initially fall on us, but I believe very quickly it will go to where the fault lies. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. Councilman Brown?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. I agree with Attorney Lay, Councilman Lay. One other thing, while I can appreciate the patience that the council is having with this, as well as the possibility that we may even have to do resolution, However, I'm concerned from a legal standpoint where we're at. So I need to ask our attorney, legally, are we able to, if necessary, to go to the courts to request relief with an injunction on some of this stuff?
I would need to be more specific as to which issue.
Well, the concerns about the things that have happened, I was able to listen to some of the executive session last night because I had some technical difficulties, so I wasn't able to, speak. But, I have a general idea of the session, and my concerns is that what Councilman Lay said, that person could possibly have that same behavior, and if the administration doesn't do something about it, then I'm saying, is it possible that the council could seek some sort of legal ramification with the court in writing, explain to the courts what the past behavior has been, and explain to the courts that we're concerned that behavior would continue, and asking the courts to give us relief and not allow that person to be involved in the transactions of what's going on for the city. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, well, the short answer is yes, you can always seek injunctive relief. The issue is whether it will be granted. And that'll probably be on a case by case basis. But the short answer is yes. If that was the desire of the council, there could be, that can be done.
Well,
Mr.
thank you.
President,
Councilman.
I'm sorry. I yield to Mr. Brown. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. President, I just want to make sure that that's an option that we have in the event moving forward. Thank you, Councilman Lay. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay.
the only way we could really enter the court would be under 36-4-4-5. And that's where one branch is stepping over into the area of the other branch. Unfortunately, you can instigate a lawsuit, but again, that is maybe, and I know what we all talking about, we're withholding the name, and that's good too. That's just bad. It could be bad judgment on the mayor. It'd be very difficult to win some kind of litigation because we could always question, his employees. So we would just simply, that's something I think we would have to work out with him. I don't believe litigation would clear it up because he basically has the right to, hire, even unless the person just for some reason or another one is not qualified, and that then becomes an issue. And there was one person that somewhat didn't qualify, and in time that person was relieved of duty. But normally that's in the executive branch. Same way he can't complain about our staff. I mean, he can complain. I mean, there's not much he can do about it. So that's something I think you and other members would have to work out with them somehow to clear it up. And I agree with Mr. Brown. I know what the problem is, but again, that would be very difficult to say he can't hire a person who qualifies in terms of residency and all of that. That's basically the only way we can control is through our residency ordinance. Beyond that, he has full authority to hire who he so chooses to. So, and that's what it's coming down to. I don't think, like I say, you could file it, but I don't think it would go anywhere.
So, Mr. President, my issue was not about the hiring. It was about the way the administration, particular appointee or whatever, is conducting business on behalf of the city when the council has no, input. And it also appears that there's no good legal representation involved in the process. So for the protection of the city, the citizens, the property, and all the things that we must, we have a responsibility of, that's what the issue is with me, Mr. President.
And I agree, Councilman. Can I just quickly say, I agree, Councilman Brown. And I think that if we thought that our ordinances were not being followed, or that state law was not being followed, or that state Board of Accounts procedures were not being followed, I would yield to Attorney Williams, but I think that we would have the authority to go to the court to say that our laws are not being followed, or to ask the prosecutor or ask the Attorney General to intervene if we thought that proper, whether it's purchasing processes, whether there were bids or not, all of those, or if we felt that, someone who was representing the city as an attorney did not do what they should have done. Of course, it may not have been their fault, but I totally agree with you. I also know that, and I'll ask Attorney Williams about our powers in terms of unfunding positions. I'm not sure whether we would have to wait till the budget season to do that, but we have the power, I believe, to unfund positions, and I'll ask him to speak to that. And lastly, we have our legislative leverage. There are things that are asked of us, and we don't have to assign anything to committee. So if we feel that, especially if it's, as it is, a major problem, then we use our leverage in terms of things that the administration may want until we get what we want. Certainly when we're doing that, is not to be petty, but it's in the interest of making sure that proper procedures are being followed. I just want to ask Attorney Williams to correct, expound upon anything that I just said. Attorney Williams?
Yes, yes, I agree with what you said. Now, as the council absolutely has the right to defund the position. I'm not sure of if that can happen mid-year. I would defer to our financial advisor on that, but there is a mechanism to defund.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay?
yeah, I was not talking about where there certainly is a violation of, an ordinance. That certainly, that lies with how we go after the mayor, that he must carry out, under 36453. So that's not the question. I thought the question was that of competency. Now that's what I'm talking about, competency, as opposed to a person violating our ordinance. Yeah, it's easy if they violate the ordinance. I mean, or if they steal money or they do something of that nature, we certainly can come in. We certainly can activate the investigative committee, but competency now is another question. And I think indirectly, or maybe even directly, what Mr. Brown is really referring to, it goes to competency, whether the person, in other words, you could, and I think someone was talking to me and I told him I wouldn't hire my grandson, and he's now 5, and I love him because in the middle of the day, if he was city controller, he may decide to go to sleep or play with his toys. So then the question would become competency. It wouldn't be that he would
favorite councilman a raise.
or he would go do something that we would say was incompetent. That's what I was talking about. Yeah, if they're violating, I agree with Mr. Williams. Yeah, once you were violating, and certainly you can do it. I don't know if you can defund in the middle of the year, but we certainly could. We could certainly reduce it to 0 at some other time. But what that does, though, is that gets rid of that job. It doesn't get rid of the individual. I think that just takes a serious conversation between the leadership of this council,
Yeah,
to whether sit down with the mayor and work it out, or tell him somehow he's going to have to improve. And there has been a discussion concerning what we're talking about already, that maybe the council will have to play a more important role if we don't get stuff secretively or after it's done. We get it before anything is done, and we could point out, as we did in the executive session, it was clear that we knew way more than the people doing it in terms of what deeds need to look like, what should be in these deeds, and all of these things. So I assume some of the things are not going by the wayside yet. We will still have to deal with it, although the mayor and the city may be somewhat locked in to where things stand.
Back. Well, I certainly agree, and I would hate to do a vote of no confidence, but if it came to that, if someone were just simply so, out of control, and there are some serious issues, and that was allowed to just continue on, we can't sit and just watch that.
Right.
So I think we would do everything at our disposal in order to stop it. And I think we have more leverage than we have historically used. And so even with redevelopment, which I have expressed that there are some strong problems over there, and the challenge is that we have 2 members on the commission. The executive branch has 3, right? So if we express concerns about whether certain deals should be approved, well, 3-2, and they just go right on forward. And I've expressed that I thought it was way too rushed, and we know it was way too rushed at this point, given the challenges that we're now starting to see. So we're going to have this public safety committee meeting, and the reason why I wanted the commanders to be there is so that they could explain how historically these processes have occurred in terms of how purchasing was done, how the bidding was done, who was used to install the radios and the light and the sirens and the lights, and who did the lettering, and what it cost then and what it costs now, so that we can ask ourselves what would have happened and what should have happened. My understanding is that they were shut out of the process.
Right.
This is
That's
not
what I
third
was
party.
getting at. Yeah.
Right. And so I have no problem with a consultant-esque, let's see how we can make improvements, but you can't eliminate the people who whose job it is to do vehicle maintenance and ordering. And so that's why I want all the parties to be there, including the gentleman, Mr. Roberts, Sam Roberts from the state QPA, to explain how that process works so that we're getting the best, most up-to-date and accurate information. And then no one can say, I didn't talk to this person or I did talk to that person without them being present. So I think that will be helpful to us, and I'm looking forward to that meeting. If there's no other questions, then I will turn to Attorney McCain for the mayor's report.
We don't have a formal report tonight, Mr. President. I would like to report to the council that the lettering has been removed from all of the police vehicles and in the process of being removed from the other vehicles as well.
Thank you. That saves me some time. Okay. Well, we will look forward to discussing the other matters as it relates to the vehicles. Are there any questions of other city officials who are on the call? I see Attorney Colvin. I see Chief Evans. I see Miss George, Miss Marietta Barber,
Mr. President.
Miss Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes, I have a question for Chief Evans. Chief Evans, are you there?
I am here.
Chief Evans, it was brought to my attention by some residents here in the 2nd District that there was a couple of individuals that got mauled by a pack of dogs, and that your officers had to ultimately put these dogs down. I believe this was on 7th and Hovey a couple of weeks ago. You know, it's been an ongoing kind of pet peeve of mine for some time that there are a lot of stray dogs around this community, in particular, dangerous dogs such as pit bulls. Is there anything that we can do to step up the efforts in dealing with these? I mean, we have an ordinance on the books that deals directly with vicious dogs. And that ordinance also, you know, kind of makes it the responsibility of all law enforcement, not just the dog catcher, but all law enforcement to monitor this and to step up whenever there are violations or whenever they see these dogs roaming up and down the streets. You know, based upon that ordinance, you know, with a pit bull in particular, the owner should have at least a $250,000 policy. That dog should be muzzled. No one under 18 should be walking it. It should be on a leash. And even when on property, it should be within a specific kind of confinement. And I mean, are we doing anything, or are there any plans? Because for the most part in this community, we've been lucky, but you know, it seems to be happening. Myself, I was attacked by a pit bull in this community once, and it wasn't a pretty sight. So again, do you have any information on that Hovey incident, and is there any efforts, of course, to deal with this issue?
So I'm not exactly familiar with the particular incident that you're speaking about that could have occurred a few weeks ago. We did have a similar situation that happened to that situation, but then that instance, the owner was mauled by his own dog that was a pit bull mix, which had bit him twice before when he lived in East Chicago and Hammond. And it was the first time it happened here. I will say this, we are a very large city. And when I mean large, I mean by landmass, 54 square miles. Many of the animals that you see are strays, and there's a cost associated with us abating animals and taking care of it. I think a more efficient way to do this, in my opinion, and maybe we can talk about this in maybe one of our public safety forums, is to have some funding granted toward our residents towards spading and neutering their animals. When your animal goes out of your home to relieve themselves at a particular season or particular time of year, that dog can be spawning other animals that will become strays. We have a very large city with a lot of open spaces, with a lot of land where these animals can continuously breed and breed others. So if it's stray dogs, we need to abate the dogs that our homeowners own, and we need to have some type of way for our residents to have that done efficiently quickly and at a particular cost. Our Humane Society, if you call them, do provide this service, but it's very limited. They can only provide so much and to a very limited amount of people. In addition to that, I do agree with you that it's the responsibility of all of us in public safety to ensure the safety of our citizens. But many times, if the animal is walking or not doing something aggressive, a particular patrol officer isn't equipped to capture the dog without a catch pole and a certain amount of training. That can be addressed. Again, we can talk about this in executive sessions. Finally, yes, our animal control division does check for licensing, insurance, and the adherence to the ordinances that are provided by the city when it comes to insuring your dog and licensing. But I will warn the council of this is something new that we've gotten. To get around the insurance purposes that the ordinance spells out, a lot of owners are getting their dogs categorized by veterans as basically, for lack of a better word, mutts, mixed, not pure pit bulls, not pure this. And they will challenge that designation in court. So again, a lot of issues with this one particular issue that we have looked at and that we probably need to talk about in our public safety forum at length, and some of the things that we can do or provide, including some funding for spade and neutering to our citizens and some other things that we can do as a community to try to help our owners bring this under control, and some language in our ordinances from our legal department to prevent this skipping or not adhering to our city ordinances because of the particular designation of the animal.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay.
and I certainly like the chief, that's one. How many police officers do you have in enforcement and animal control? How many over there?
4, sir. 4.
You have
Animal
4?
control. Just 4, yes, sir.
That's quite a large number. And how are they working over there?
Animal control works 8 to 5 in the winter months, and we hold them over till 6 or 7 in the summer months with daylight hours. It's extremely dangerous for them to try to capture dogs at night because many of the strays go in abandoned houses.
No, that's not my question. How many cases are you turning over to the Gary City Court? In other words, when you say you have 4, how many cases, let's say currently, do you think are over in the Gary City Court concerning these animals?
I'm very sorry. I thought you asked me how many animal control officers do we have.
Right, that was the initial one. And how are they working? But as these control officers under, I'm going to say just enforcement of the codes, they're supposed to be filing cases within the Gary City Court. In other words, Councilman Witherspoon was correct. Most of these animals are considered vicious, and they have to have muzzles on leash and all of that. So are your officers filing cases over in the Gary City Court?
Yes, they are. I couldn't get you an exact number off the top of my head.
No, I understand that. I'm not pressuring you to do that. That may be the first thing to do, is to attempt to increase the number of people that are carrying it out. We used to have, I'm going to call them a dog catcher, who operated under your department, but they were civilians. It may be just as easy to get some civilians to help in this area along. I assume you're talking about sworn officers, these 4, is that correct?
No, sir. I'm talking about our animal control officers. And the animal control has been at the number of 4 civilian animal control officers for about 15 or 16 years.
Okay. Looked like it was at one point, I thought it was actually a sworn police officer. Anyway, you could increase that through your reserves too. Maybe that would be the initial thing to do through those officers. Try to get additional ones there to help in the control of the animals, as opposed to the neutering. That would be a much heavier cost, I think, on the city. But I agree, something needs to be done with these animals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lay,
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer, and Councilman Barnes Caldwell.
I guess that's a good segue into me to talk about the next meeting I have with public safety is talking about the animals. It has been a great concern in the Miller area there about, dogs being tied up for a nice number of times, especially in cold weather and things of that nature. And I have promised individuals in that area that I will host a meeting to discuss it. And I think with Councilman Witherspoon, I think that's a good segue for us to have this conversation with the parties at that time. So I will schedule that the following Wednesday at 5 p.m. to have that meeting with everyone.
What day is that?
That's the 10th.
Okay.
But I really didn't want to get that day out. Kind of want to confuse everyone with the two public safety meetings. So I just want to put it out there. We will have another public safety meeting on the 10th to discuss the animal control. No. Did I do that? I'm sorry, the 17th. I'm sorry, the 17th. Good eye. 17th, yes.
Okay. Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
I have a question for Ms. George. Ms. George, has the Rainbow Shelter reopened?
I don't think
Ms. George, are you on?
Trying to get my mute off. I'm sorry. What did you say, Councilwoman?
Has the Rainbow Shelter reopened?
No, we just got word that we probably would not be opening until the end of April or the beginning of May. They won't be finishing up the work until mid-April. There have been some challenges, of course, due to COVID, getting parts in, cabinetry. We had to order some pumps for the furnace, for one of the furnaces, and it still has another 4 weeks out. And right now we're in the process of trying to get a change order for windows, not just the screens. Some of the windows, air is coming straight through the rooms. So it's very cold. So right now we're looking at hopefully end of April, beginning of May.
Okay, where are you referring people to if they come looking for you all or call?
Okay, so our domestic violence clients, we are working with the Haven House in Hammond, St. Jude House in Crown Point, the Caring Place in Valparaiso, and Stepping Stone in Michigan City. So what happens is if we get a call or a walk-up for domestic violence services, we, by law, have to advocate them to one of those shelters if they have space. Now, what's been happening due to COVID, a lot of those places are not taking clients right away unless they have a high lethality level, if they're, extreme danger at that moment. So that's been a challenge for us as far as referring clients to the shelters. Our homeless clients, same thing. The best thing that we have been doing is if they come up, we give them a bag of clothing, some food, different things like that, and resources. When the warming centers were open, and when they are open during the negative 32 degrees, I'm sorry, not negative 32 degrees, then we make sure to give them information about the warming center that they can at least go warm up during the times of the warming center. And then we don't know, what they do off chance they don't make it to the warming center. But if they show up to our door, we make sure they have food and all of those sorts of things. So it's been a real challenge because there aren't any shelters in the area other than Missions of Charity. And they only take 8 clients at a time, and they don't take male clients under 4 years old. So it's been a challenge.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. President, I did have a question.
Councilman Lay.
And I'm not sure, Ms. George, did you and I have a discussion about a 501c3 about a year ago?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, your first name's a little bit different than I thought it was. What have you done, if anything, on getting tax exemption?
We haven't done anything because at the time that you and I talked about that, about 2 weeks later, we had to close the shelter. So we weren't for certain what our next steps were at that time, but I'm happy to start revisiting that. We wanted to make sure that we had some other ducks in a row. We were working on some other financials and some other things to make sure that we got all of those things cleared, and we have done that. So now we can begin working on that.
I will be more than willing to keep the commitment I gave you before that I would work with you guys on that.
I will definitely contact you in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to ask everyone who speaks to show their video. And I'm not saying that to pick on anybody, but we do have a television audience, and it's important for many people who may be hearing impaired or what have you to see and look at lips and all the rest. And it improves if we were all here, right, in the chamber. We of course would have to be physically present. So I just would ask that everyone, including council persons, if you're going to be speaking, to show your face. Okay, are there any other, and that's not about you, Ms. George, by the way. There's a lot of folks.
No problem.
We've kind of done that back and forth, but I'm going to enforce that much more strongly in the future in terms of even allowing someone to speak who's not showing their video. We presume that everyone is prepared for the council, just as we would be if we were here, all here in the chamber.
Mr. President.
Councilman Weatherspoon and Councilman Brown.
Yeah, we've gotten a streak here of these 40-degree days, I guess maybe about 4 or 5 these days strung together, maybe 5 or 6, I don't know. And it seems as if when the snow that fell, the 1.5 feet of snow that we had, is a very distant memory, if at all. But I just want to take the time to thank General Services. We recognize them for their efforts a week and a half ago, because we got pounded this year like we have not been in a long, long time. And understanding and recognizing the restraints they have so far as equipment and even personnel for that matter. I still have to take my hat off to them. They have their challenges, huge challenges, and they all were in front of our eyes. But those guys put their heart into it. They were working 12-hour shifts, and I just want to take the time to thank them and just to recognize them for their efforts. Thank you, General Services.
Thank you, Councilman Weatherspoon. Councilman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know if the police chief is still on or not, but I had some concerns about this domestic violence to the point that we've had some, unfortunately, murder-suicide. And I've been concerned about that, as well as how the police department are handling it, what kind of training, and what can be done to kind of help, stop this. I mean, I know people talk about carjacking, but I'm also seeing what is domestic violence is rising, and issue of homicides, suicide is just a great concern. Now, I don't know if the chief is on, if he can help us, or if he can't answer, maybe at the next public safety meeting, he can give us some insight. But I wanted to put that out there because it's a concern. That's it, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Brown. Chief Evans?
Yes, we can talk.
Go ahead.
I cannot turn my camera on. I'm driving, and
okay,
I do not know how to do it on my phone. I'm very sorry.
I want you to drive safely. I don't want you to get a ticket.
I'm hands-free. I'm hands-free. So, as far as the domestic violence and the murder-suicides, the very unfortunate events that we've had in the city in the past, we can talk about that at length and detail about the. I'm very, very disappointed about what has occurred, not from the police department, but for the fact that both of these incidents involve people that were involved with each other a long time, and it resulted in 4 people dead. As it stands, we didn't have much contact with either couple before this incident or until the situation happened. There were previous cases there, and we can talk about that in detail about what we're doing and what we do afterwards with our Gary for Life program and with what counseling service that we do offer, and how we try to get involved with these cases when we do see them develop sometime with some of our couples. I would love to talk about that at our public safety forum next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Evans. Councilman Brown. If there's no other questions of city officials, we did have one public speaker. You will have 3 minutes, and I'll ask our parliamentarian to keep the time. Mr. Emmett Mosley, and you can start now.
Okay. Well, I think you're in charge of the video and the mute. So I would show my face, but I think you're in charge of that. I just want to thank you, first of all, for the opportunity. I don't often speak. I am a former community organizer, and I understand my role as a community organizer. It's not our place to be the speaker in front of the crowd, but I've been involved for a number of years in this business of community engagement, and I have a deep concern on the response of public officials around the issue of police accountability. I love police. Got some great police friends. My experience, I worked in training the whole academy in Chicago through all my staff when I was a community organizer, and my community work since 1984 that I've been involved in. But we have had so many incidents throughout this country that everybody's aware of. You know, it's been a year with the Floyd incident. They're going to start the trial, I guess, this week. But my deep concern is that right here in a city that is 90% African Americans, that we still have no response about the incidents that we have had. We talk about all of these other places. You know, every other day, African American is being shot down in this country, and and cities are finally coming and right quickly stating their position, their disappointment, firing officers immediately. But when it comes to Gary, there's nothing. I've not heard anything. And I'm a preacher too, okay? And the bottom line, have heard nothing from the preachers about right here in Gary. And you know, we just recently had a number of incidents where racism has reared its head, but it's also about accountability. Because when I was working in Chicago, we did studies on African American police and their engagement with youth. And bottom line, African American police were tougher on African American youth in the city of Gary than the white police, trying to keep up with the so-called Joneses. So I just think we ought to have some deeper conversation and at least respond to when these incidents happen. Don't turn it over to Bernie. I love Bernie. We played basketball.
Thank you, Mr. Mosley. Your time has expired. Thank you for your advocacy.
My 3 minutes are up, but
yes, thank you so much.
Let's do something.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. President.
We stand adjourned. Have a good evening.